Welcome to another episode of Health with Natalie Cuomo. I'm here with one of my favorite comedians, Dan LaMorte. How are you?
Oh, hey, Natalie. It's good to see you. Long time no see.
Oh, my God, Dan. How's it going? Thanks for finally doing my podcast.
You know, it's a long time coming. I'm happy to be here.
It really is.
Yeah.
Dan and I just had lunch with my dad.
Yes, I did. She does that with every guest. It's how you get to know her. You're like, oh, this is why you need help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
do you want to recount the lunch? We had quiche, we had asparagus, we had awkwardness.
No, it wasn't awkward at all.
I know. I was trying to rule of threes comedy.
Yeah, but it wasn't awkward. You really carried the conversation.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, my dad's a big fan of you.
Oh, okay, good.
Dan's also my boyfriend.
Oh, we just started dating on camera.
We did. Will you?
Yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it. Let's date. Yeah, we're like comedy's newest couple.
Yeah, it's been going well.
I would say I'm A+. You check every box.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So at lunch, he kind of ruined the best advice he ever received. He already kind of spoiled it. He said, fake it till you make it was good advice. And then I said, you can't use that on the podcast.
I was still going to, but now I feel I have 3 different advices that I was planning on that goes to each different aspect of my life.
Okay, let's start with the first one.
Oh, we start with advice?
Let's start.
I thought you close with advice.
Do you want to close with advice?
Well, we'll start with the one that you brought up. I mean, in comedy, the best advice I ever got was fake it until you make it.
Okay.
Because confidence does go a long way. A lot of people are not confident. So if you just come off in a certain way and you're like, no, I am a headliner. I am a feature act. I am this funny. You can convince people of that.
I think that's good advice. That's definitely what I've done.
Yeah, you do a great job of it, too. Hundreds of thousands of people believe it.
I know. And then behind closed doors, it's like I'm really not very confident.
Yes and no. There are moments and flashes of absolute confidence, and then there's moments of just wells of tears. So it goes one or the other.
What's the most surprising thing about dating me that you wouldn't expect?
The most surprising thing about dating Natalie is how much she loves smells. This girl loves smelling everything. The first night I went back to her house, this is when I knew she was the one. She invites me into her house in front of her mom, which I thought was a power move. She was like, no, you're coming in tonight. And then I get inside the house. We're sitting on the floor, and I'm like, I'm worried that my feet smell. And you grabbed my ankle and brought my foot to your nose and just started whiffing it, which I thought was such a fun way to make me comfortable and immediately relax me.
Yeah, I did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments where immediately I was like, oh, this is one of my people. This is good. You made me feel so comfortable.
That was fun.
Yeah, and you stink more than I would have imagined.
I do smell something.
I was joking.
Ripe, as they say.
Ripe, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know pretty ladies stunk so much.
Well, sometimes we're human.
Yeah, you know.
I feel like you have one of the most impressive stories of anyone that I've ever met.
That I date you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you not only are you an ultra runner, but you were 350 pounds at one point.
I was 354 pounds was my heaviest when I was 23 years old.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And you lost 170 pounds.
Yeah, it's always gone between 170 and 190. I've probably back in the 170 area lost now. You know, it fluctuates from time to time.
That's amazing. How did you lose the weight?
All right. So recount the story. I was in a car accident with a drunk driver.
Okay.
I had to go to the hospital, and they told me I had a fatty liver. At 23, they told me my liver was fatty. And then that moment, well, my uncle, who is a gastro doctor, says you have to lose like 20 to 30% of your body weight. I didn't necessarily take it serious in the immediate moment, but I had a trip coming up to Los Angeles, and my buddy had invited me to go hiking. And that's something I often would have said no to, but I said, you know what, just fucking do it. So I went out, I bought a pack of joints, I smoked a joint, and I went on a hike, and I fell in love with hiking. So now I was in LA for a month at that point. The apartment that I subletted had a gym, so every day I would get stoned, go to the gym, I would lift, hit the punching bag, and then eventually when I came back home to New Jersey, I took up stoned running and got way into running. And then that was kind of how the weight loss started. There was diet as well. I gave up gluten, which sucked. I mean, I'm way back on it now. I love gluten so much, but that definitely jump-started the weight loss. So it was a mix of diet and then just loving working out, falling in love with running.
One of my favorite things about you is your willpower and your ability to do anything. I mean, my favorite memory is being with your dad at the race, the 50K, and just like every time I would see you come around the corner, just like your little head coming around the corner at the aid station, I'd be like, yes, that's Dan. And it was so awesome. Like you ran 31 miles in 6 hours, 45 minutes. Like that is fucking crazy. The fact that you've come that far is so awesome. Like how did you get yourself to that place?
One, you're the only person who's ever told me I have a tiny head. My mom often reminds me how big my head was in a very gross way. But how did I get to that point? I mean, one, that race was amazing. It was great to have you there. It was fun to see you and my dad connect and have fun and kind of just in the woods at Connecticut and seeing you guys. And like when you run an ultramarathon, they have those aid stations where every certain amount of miles there's a table set up with like drinks, food, and you could kind of stop quickly, or if you're trying to actually compete, you kind of just get what you need and move. But like to see you guys there and to see family and friends and girlfriend helps so much. I mean, there's nothing better than like going through the shit in the woods and then knowing at least in a few miles you're going to see people that you love and you could kind of gleam onto that positivity and move forward with it.
I feel that, but I feel like even if I knew you were there, I don't think I'd be able to run that far.
You could eventually. Everyone could.
What about the fact that your whole thing started as like high running? You were like, all right, I just got high and I ran and that's what helped me get through it.
Absolutely.
But now you don't smoke. You're sober.
Yes, completely sober.
So like, how do we get there?
How do we get there?
Like, how do you like, is it different? Is it easier to run sober now? Like, before you got sober, were you running sober? Like, at what point did weed stop playing a role in running?
Almost my entire running career, which has been about 3 years of running. My first ultramarathon, I did not smoke before it. I tried to smoke. My first race was 44 miles. At the 20-mile mark, I tried to smoke a joint and almost vomited because I was just so out of breath and just nauseous because you get nauseous in these races. Afterwards, I smoked a joint. It helped with recovery. I really felt like weed helped my body feel better. My second ultramarathon, I was much smarter, and I actually took a few weeks off leading up to the race from weed and just went in relatively like on a smoke break. Didn't smoke during the race, smoked after the race. I had actually taken a month-long tolerance break, and that was the night I broke the race. And I was in so much pain that I thought it was going to be like the best high ever. That race was 55 miles. My body was hurting, and I was like, oh, this high is going to be incredible. I was in so much pain. I didn't feel the weed at all.
Really?
Oh, there was nothing.
At least mentally, did you feel it?
No, I felt nothing. My body was just throbbing. It was wild. And then the third race I did, I actually took edibles during. Every 4 miles, I took a 25 milligram edible.
Really?
Yeah, roughly.
How did that affect you?
It was great. I felt like I was floating the back half of the race.
Really?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like running kind of becomes like a video game, you know? You kind of feel like you connect with the nature more because a lot of these races are in nature. And there's something about being stoned in nature where you feel like you could sing with the birds and talk to the deer.
There was something that you said to me a while ago about I don't know if this is the piece of advice that you're going to say, but when you think you're about to die, that means you have that much more left. What is that quote?
So that's from David Goggins, who's like a very crazy. He was like this one of the only black Navy SEALs. He was very heavy at a point, lost a bunch of weight. Then after a few Navy SEALs died in combat, he decided to do the hardest races in the world. And he had this advice. It's either the 30 or 40% rule, that when you're completely at wit's end and you feel like your workout is done, you've actually only given 40%. You have 60% left in the tank. And that is how I got into ultra running, because people kept telling me, I started running on my own, and people were like, you got to get into Goggins. And I'm a very stubborn person. It has to come across my path for me to really take it in, for better or worse. And I was driving to a run on the beach, and I started listening to Goggins. It was the morning I decided myself to do it, and he said that rule. And I had a water bottle with me. Almost immediately into the run, the water bottle fell into the ocean and went away. And it was the middle of the winter, so the water fountains were not working. I had never run more than 4 miles at that point. And I used that opportunity. I was like, I could just stop the run. And I was like, well, let's see what I could do. So I ran 8 miles down to the other end of the boardwalk, which meant to get back to my car, I needed to run another 8. So I went from never running more than 4 miles to running 16 miles. And I didn't feel completely dead. At the 13-mile mark, I did see a woman getting in her car. And I was like, is there any way you could give me a ride to the end of the boardwalk? I am in so much pain. And both my nipples were bleeding. And she was like, absolutely not.
Do you think the bleeding nipples had anything to do with it?
I would say you should just rule of thumb, never give a ride to someone who has blood coming from their nipples. That's like a weird serial killer, you know?
I feel like that's when you give someone a ride. When they're bleeding, you're like, you need help.
See, I think if I saw a woman bleeding from nipples, I'd be like, oh no, something's going wrong with her birthing system or whatever connects to those. But a man's bloody nipples, that's a bad look.
I would never give a stranger that was a man a ride.
Yeah.
But if you're bleeding, I feel like I'd be concerned.
She got herself and her dog in her car so quickly and did like a peel out and was like, "Rah!" And I was like, okay, she really didn't want to give me that ride. So then I like hobbled to the end of the boardwalk and kind of just had that ultimate feeling of satisfaction. I was like, holy shit, I just did something that I didn't think was possible. And then I got in the shower and it felt like hell. When you get in the shower with like cuts on your nipples, you really feel it.
Yeah. I hear that nipple piercings are like the ultimate pain. So
I guess
when it gets infected.
I've pierced my nipples with running.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, that was essentially the 40% rule from David Goggins.
I feel like everything you do, you do the fullest. Like you were this amazing pitcher in college, in comedy. Like I very much admire that about you.
Yeah, I got up to 354 pounds. That was,
you became the fattest in your family.
Absolutely, I really did. I mean, I don't know how not to go all in on everything, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, which is obviously how sobriety came about because I went all in on alcohol not too long ago.
Right.
I ultra drank.
Yeah.
You were along for that ride. Not dating-wise, but you were a very close friend through my downfall.
Yeah, you're definitely the first person that I've dated that was like a very good friend for us. So that's cool.
It is cool. I like dating a friend. It's very nice. I don't think there's things we couldn't even convey to the camera with how weird we are together and how perfect it is.
We're very weird. I feel that we're very weird.
We're both very weird. We love noises, just making noises.
I make a lot of noises.
Yeah, not even like all sexual.
No. I mean, definitely sexual, but also just strange. I feel like I scare strangers a lot.
I've seen you scare 3 strangers in the past week in 2 different states. Twice in New York and once when we were we were just in a Wawa. We were driving back from D.C. We had to be in Virginia or something. And Natalie just gets out of the car and lets out like a guttural scream like, "Hurrah!" And a woman just turns around and goes, "Don't do that around here. You're going to scare the shit out of me." I very much tried not to do any accent there.
No, it was good. It was very ambiguous.
I tried to be ambiguous.
Interesting. So do you think it's time for you to give me another piece of advice?
Another piece of advice. Well, I mean, if we're on the topic of running, one of my favorite pieces of advice. I mean, I love advice around pain because pain is a very big part of ultra running. There's one woman, she's like a legendary ultra runner. Her name's Ann Trayson. She's credited for saying just something very simple, that it doesn't always get worse. Which is so true. Whether it's running or life, like, hey, sometimes it sucks right now, but it might get better. Like in the race you were at, my knee went out at mile 15. I ran until mile 22. Then I had to break a stick in half and use it as a cane from mile 22 to 27. And then magically, to close out the race, I threw down my fastest mile and ran the last 3 miles of the race because it doesn't always get worse.
In what ways have you been able to use that for like mental health?
Running or that advice? That advice, I mean, every situation does come to an end. That's kind of how I see that. Like whether it's a brief period of pain, a brief period of depression, it does eventually end as long as you allow it to. If you start to let the moment consume you, then you can fall into this funk where you're in there for a while. But like my whole life has been not sitting in the depression and the pain. Even like you mentioned, I was a college athlete. My whole life was baseball. I had a scholarship to play baseball in college. And then my first ever game in college, I blew out my elbow very badly. Like my elbow tore in half. I had to get reconstructive arm surgery. I never played baseball again. I worked every day of my life to get there. And when that happened, instead of just sitting in the moment of the depression, I got a notebook and started writing jokes and started stand-up while I had a cast on my arm. Because I knew you can't just let life consume you. I mean, you can, but like another thing that Goggins says is just because you're in a situation, you might not be the one who put you there, but it is your responsibility to get yourself out of there. A lot of us are in situations that we don't deserve to be in, that other people put us in, that life put us in, but the only person who gets yourself out of it is you.
I feel like you're such a good person for me to be around because I have this perspective of hating everyone and thinking everyone's a bad person. And you have just a little bit more faith in humanity. You're like, no, not everyone is terrible, Natalie.
Definitely not.
You're like, not everyone's a monster.
I talk shit with the best of them about people, but at the same time, I do think I could find redeeming qualities in most people.
Yeah. There was that book that I liked all the quotes in the book that your grandpa had, the crazy cryptograph book.
Oh, yeah. My 90-year-old grandfather does these wild cryptographs where it's just a bunch of letters on a page that are not in order. And it's not like an unscramble where you just turn 4 of the letters around and it makes a word. You have to just look at the letters and think this A is actually a T. I don't know how he does it. It doesn't make any sense, but it's the reason he's still like not fully gone, I think, mentally.
You recently posted a viral video about your grandmother's leaderboard. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, well, you were the director of the video.
I was.
Natalie has completely changed my content. I did a podcast recently in New Jersey with my buddy Anthony Ferraro, who's like this blind activist, really cool dude. And when I walked in, him and his wife were there, and they were like, hey, you know, the last couple months, your social media has taken a turn. It looks better. The videos are tighter. Your following's growing. I'm like, that's when I started dating Natalie. I mean, yeah, my following has grown since dating, and it's not even like fully me. Sure, some of your followers have transitioned to mine, but just you've helped me find a way to make videos more appealing and to put them out to a larger platform, I think.
Yeah, well, when you love someone, you just want to help them succeed.
I agree. I mean, I don't know how I'm helping you in that way because you're way more successful than me, but we'll find something.
That's not
like
true.
You said, I balance you out in a positivity way.
You make me very happy.
All right. I'm glad.
Yeah.
The leaderboard. Sorry to take a detour. It's what I do. My grandmother, very sweet woman, very stern woman in a lot of other ways. She always had favorites of the grandchildren. You know, it's funny. A lot of grandmothers love their grandchildren more than their children. She loves her children way more than her grandchildren. That was always like this big thing. I don't know.
Why do you think? It's so true because I feel that I'm not sure if they actually love their grandchildren more, but they at least act like they do.
She does. Like, if you ever did, like, if I ever was mean to my father, she'd be like, what are you doing to him? I love him. She was always, like, very protective of her children. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what their full upbringing was like. All of them turned out pretty cool, which I guess says a lot about them as parents. But ultimately, we always knew she had favorites. There's 10 grandchildren on that side of the family. We always knew there were favorites because she would be very open about having favorites. This person is my favorite. This person is my least favorite. That's how it used to go. Gianna, who's my cousin, was always number 1. Ariana, who was my cousin, was always 10. So we always wondered who fits in the middle.
Well, let's pause here. Why was Gianna number 1?
She was always very intelligent, got into a lot of schools, is a veterinarian.
All right.
Which is kind of like a doctor. I mean, my cousin Chris is a doctor. He's a dentist, but that still ranks below veterinarian.
Why?
Well, just think, like in a mob movie, when a mobster gets shot, they go to a veterinarian because they can't go to like a real doctor. They don't go to a dentist to get a bullet out. I think a veterinarian deals with more things.
Immediately because it's Jersey, it's Italian. We're going immediately to the mob. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's movies where a mobster takes the guy who got shot to a veterinarian. I could be way off.
She does love animals. She loves squirrels. Okay, and then let's move on. My
grandma fell in a ditch last month because she's not supposed to leave the house, and she saw a squirrel, so she left the house, and all they hear is screaming, and she's stuck in a ditch because she fell down trying to talk to a squirrel.
I completely understand that.
Yeah, they talk back too, which is interesting.
No, they do not.
On top of the leaderboard is just a picture of a squirrel.
I think this is when you were doing mushrooms.
Yeah.
So, okay, who's number 10 again?
Ariana.
Why is Ariana 10?
I legitimately cannot say that. I legitimately cannot. There is no world where I could put that on camera.
But you know in your heart and mind.
No, we know vocally why she's 10.
You do know
it's just
why.
not for reasons that could be said out loud. My grandmother's 90. She can't get canceled now.
Oh, my God. Okay. So everyone can use their own. I mean, the things that people are probably thinking.
Yeah, they don't know fully about Ariana.
They're thinking maybe it's murder. They're thinking maybe it's... Just kidding. It's not murder.
No, it's not murder by any means.
That's fine.
No, if anything, it was the No, I can't.
Let's move on.
It was life.
It was life. Life, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we always wondered who was 2 to 9, right? Because we knew who 1 and 10 was. So one year, my cousin Chris.
It'd really be hilarious if Ariana just didn't like squirrels.
That was all it was. The funny thing is, Ariana tries hard with them. She goes over there a lot. She makes them gifts and stuff. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandma's a very honest woman. If something is done to her, like even a kind gesture that she doesn't like, she's like, I don't like this.
I'm so glad she likes me.
Yeah, she did like you. I mean, my grandmother's a born-again Christian who hates tattoos and went up to Natalie and was like, I love your body no matter what the devil has put on it.
Meant a lot to me.
It did, yeah. I mean, when you turned around, she did horns to you.
No, that was you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was on her best behavior with you. It was really nice. They even called me the next day and they were like, Dan, I love the person we met yesterday. And I was like, Natalie? And they were like, no, you. We like you a lot better now that you're with her. So you even helped me out. Like, I might go higher on the leaderboard now because of you.
We'll go back there and you'll be number 2. Not number 1. You're no vet.
Never number 1, no.
Okay, so we've got 8 spots that for some reason, is 4 really the highest you've ever been?
That was more so for the video. There have been times where I've been 2 or 3.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a time where I took care of my grandfather when he was very sick, like moved in with us and I was his caretaker. And that helped me a lot on the leaderboard for a very brief window.
Mm-hmm.
Your windows of bumping up are brief.
Yeah.
And then if you don't see them for a few weeks, you drop back down. I mean, ultimately, it's a great way to get the grandchildren. A lot of times grandchildren don't visit their grandparents.
I have told you this story about the most fucked up story of anything anyone's ever said to me.
Have you told that on the podcast
No,
before?
but it's great.
You should share that. This is honestly the meanest thing I've ever heard someone say.
Yeah, my grandfather, he passed away, and I was in the room with him and my mom. It was my mom's dad. We were very close. I loved my grandpa very much, and I did visit him often. He lived in Jackson Heights in Queens, and he had a live-in aide. Her name was Cirilla.
We'll put her Instagram in the bio.
No, anyway, I'll never forget it. So we were visiting my grandpa in the hospital. He was very sick. Then I was going to take an Uber to leave. And I left. And when I got in the Uber, my mom texted me. She's like, come back to the hospital room. Your grandfather's dying right now. And I said, okay. I came back to the hospital room and I'm sitting there. My grandpa's dying. I'm sitting with my mom. It's this like horrible, I guess, beautiful moment. I mean, it's not fun to watch someone you love die. And, it was terrible. He died and I kissed his head and said goodbye. And, we called the aide because she had lived with him. And she came, said her prayers. And then we're in the hallway. This is about 20 minutes after. And she says to me, don't worry, Natalie. Grandpa's still here. He's wandering the halls saying, why didn't Natalie visit me more?
I mean, the timing is impeccable from Cirilla.
It was really, I will never forget it.
You shouldn't. I mean, she really drilled something mortifying into your head.
I visited him a lot.
Not enough by her standards.
I mean, it's a really wild thing to say.
It is the meanest thing I've ever heard, especially that close to the death.
She wasn't even in the room.
Did she come to the funeral?
Yeah.
Did she say anything mean there?
I wouldn't talk to her. I was
Fair.
Very upset. My mom was upset with me for being upset, but
I mean, that is one of the if anything, you say that when the person's alive, like, hey, you should visit them a little bit more. You don't say it immediately when the body is still warm.
Yeah.
I don't know as a comic how to make this funny.
The heat leaves quickly, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting here, punchlines are going through my head, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything acceptable or funny enough.
No, it was terrible. But unfortunately, there are only two grandkids. I have one cousin, so first or second on the leaderboard, if it existed, would have been fine.
What if she was actually a psychic, and that is what he was saying? He was still around, being like, Natalie should have visited me. Maybe it was a real feeling she had.
Well,
we should have her on.
I'm it's valid. Maybe he did miss me.
He did. Maybe we'll take the positive from it. He loved his granddaughter.
He loved me so much, he thought I should visit him more.
Absolutely. He's like, get this bitch Cirilla out of here. She doesn't like me the way Natalie does. Yeah, when you told me that in the car, I was like, oh, that's when, like, when you start dating someone, you slowly start to unlock their trauma. That was one of the pieces where you turned the key on that and it opened, and I was like, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of the trauma.
No, but that was crazy. But you should visit your grandparents Because, maybe if I had visited him a little bit more, I wouldn't have felt so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really stumped on this one. It's one of the wildest things I've ever heard. Even hearing it again, I'm like, it sounds meaner the second time. The blow doesn't soften.
The blow doesn't soften, no. No, it was about 5 years ago.
Very, very cold.
It's a cold thing.
AIDS have this weird connection, though, where they spend every day with the person, so they feel like they know them better.
And like resentment, even they have probably resentment for the life that
my
they're living.
grandparents have gone through a plethora of AIDS because they could be wild people. And like there have been times where the AIDS just, mysteriously 4 of their AIDS have disappeared. I'm joking.
They fell in the ditch with the squirrel.
Yeah, they're in the squirrel ditch. No, some people are like, we can't deal with these people anymore.
But so the leaderboard.
Yes, my cousin Chris and his girlfriend Allison had a very brilliant idea one year for their birthday to hand make a wooden leaderboard.
Oh, a cousin made this.
Yes, my cousin Chris.
Who's not even in the top position.
He's 2. He's the dentist. He
really thought he was going to be first.
Let's be honest, his girlfriend made it. Chris doesn't have that skill. So Allison made it.
Very nicely done.
Very nicely done. It says family on the top. Then there's 10. It says 1 through 10. And each grandchild has a picture of their face, which is glued to a magnet. So then my grandmother immediately got this gift where she could rank us. And when I tell you, she immediately walked inside when everyone was like laughing and we were like, where did Nanny go? She was inside actually correcting the pictures on there. Immediately did it.
Wait, so Chris ranked it?
Chris gave it to her. Yeah, the original one. He just put everyone's picture. She walked inside right away. Walked is a strong word. She put the leaderboard down on her walker and wheeled it in. And then she moved 1 through 10 right away. The ranking was done.
That's amazing.
And since then, Ariana has been 10. The 1 spot does get given out in other times. Ariana has maintained 10 more than anyone has maintained 1.
Wow.
Vin has dropped down to 9 as well. He's Ariana's brother. At this point, it's just guilty by association.
Wow. By association?
Yeah, Matt's usually a strong 8 because he lives in Philly, doesn't visit often.
You got to visit.
Visiting's a big one, but then my cousin Jessie lives in San Francisco, still calls a lot, loves them. She's often on the left side. There's the left side and the right side.
Has one of your cousins ever sent you a picture and been like, Dan, you made it to number 3?
Absolutely, because my cousin Jacqueline now lives there again, and in the little family compound, there's like a few houses there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And she'll walk over there, so she always has the most up-to-date rankings.
Right.
But yeah, people for one reason or another, they love this leaderboard. It's never not gotten 1 million views on TikTok, and now it's even blowing up more.
You've gotten a lot of article requests. I mean, what are the questions that people are asking? Like, what do people want to know?
Yeah, so today Newsweek reached out.
What did they want to know?
They wanted to know my relationship with my grandmother. What is she like as a person? The origin of the leaderboard. What are her actual views on tattoos? How is your relationship with your grandmother? Kind of how the family views the leaderboard. And do they have permission to use the video?
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Those were the main ones. And then we've actually had 2 news reporters from the UK reach out wanting to do articles about it for a wide range of websites and newspapers.
Grandma's going to be a star.
Absolutely. There have been people on TikTok who have tagged me in videos, not on this one, but the last one I posted, where they then handmade their own leaderboards.
I like that.
Yeah. I think we should honestly copyright it and make our own one because it seems like a good little merch opportunity.
I'll make that sign.
A little money, a little cashola, put the cashola in the envelope. That's what we say at a wedding.
Before we were dating, we were just friends, and we were at the stand. We were talking about tattoos. I remember this conversation specifically. You probably don't because you were drinking. Just kidding. But
when you call my tattoos bitch tattoos?
No, it was before.
Oh.
He only had the 3 little dinky ones, and I said one day you'll get a real man tattoo.
And I have.
Yes, thank God.
I have a real man tattoo of a pinky promise. You really manned me up, Natalie. I have 2 pinkies on my arm.
It's very cute.
It is cute.
No, but I remember it was a while ago. You were saying that you wanted to get a tattoo on your leg of a Tabasco bottle for Tabasco. You were telling me how you wanted to get a tattoo. You didn't know when. I remember this conversation. It was like almost a year ago.
Let your fans know that was my dog name. Like, I'm just not obsessed with Tabasco sauce. I wasn't just going to get the brand tattooed on my leg. I like it, but my childhood dog's name, we named him Tabasco.
But you like hot sauce as well.
I love it. I like Frank's Red Hot more, but Frank's isn't a good name for a dog.
Frank is a great name for a dog. What are you
Frank,
talking
but that's not
about?
the hot sauce. Frank's is the hot sauce. So you
Cholula's
can't
a good
just-
name for a dog too.
A Chihuahua.
You know what else is amazing? My dog Rory infamously hates men. He hates them. I've talked about on my podcast how he goes up to men and he bites their shirts, he rips their shirts, he attacks them. He loves Dan. Immediately he loved Dan. Immediately he went up to Dan. He loved him.
Yeah, we have a wildly good relationship, me and Rory. Like, to the point where the three of us lay on bed together. Like, he lays in between me and you. He goes from one side to the other, kissing us.
He's so sweet.
He wags his butt a ton. He gets almost as excited to see me as you.
In a month, he's going to like you better.
Yeah, there was one point where Natalie was on the road, and I had late sets at the cellar. I live a bit further into Jersey than she does, so I got to, like it was an opportunity. I crashed at her place when she was away, and the excitement Rory had when he saw me, he sprinted up and down the stairs 3 times, then just started doing the zoomies around the bed, and then we napped together. And I sent you a shirtless picture with your dog, which in hindsight was creepy.
No, it was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I breastfed him after that.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, that's another reason my nipples bleed. Rory bites them.
Well,
I was trying to bring it back. I'm sorry.
no, that was good. That was good. He is a nibbler.
He is a nibbler. Like, we brought another man into the equation.
Well,
Not sexually. There's a documentary being made about the weight loss and the running and all this stuff. And the cameraman, Matt, flew in from California to spend some time with us and get some more footage. And Rory attacked him numerous times.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt.
So it actually, sorry, Matt, but it made me realize Natalie wasn't lying to me. Rory does not like men. And I
tell him things like, oh, Dan, you're special in this way. And he's like, okay. And then it takes certain things for him to understand.
Yeah.
Speaking of special, he's autistic. You're autistic.
That's why I connect with the dogs so well. They do say autistic people and animals kind of, I don't know if it's a similar wavelength. That seems offensive to other autistic people, but it's almost like they could read the soft side of people.
I feel like you've overcome so much adversity. You're gigantic.
Gigantic, autistic.
You fucking were this star pitcher, and then you fucked up your arm.
Well, the weight loss was when I started to piece together the autism, because when I always felt like a caricature of myself when I was that heavy. I knew things were off when I was younger. People used to say I had bipolar 2. I was actually diagnosed. That was on medicine. It never made any sense to me. My therapist never agreed with it. I didn't agree with it because I didn't have highs or lows. I just always felt like a slight disconnect with people, and never was able to make very close friends. I was really good at acquaintances. I didn't understand a lot of social cues. I understood laughter, which is why I became like a class clown and eventually to comedy, because I felt like if I made people laugh, it felt like some connection between them. I always knew something was a bit different from me, whether it was sensory stuff with loud noises, just the way I acted out and stuff. And then when I started to lose the weight, I started to really feel more of it. Like I didn't have this fat suit around me that I could hide in. I kind of was like becoming more of myself, and more of myself was quite weird. So then I went back to the therapist that didn't agree with the bipolar stuff when I was younger, and we started to explore the autism spectrum, and that's where we landed. You know, right on the good side of it, not the side where it's like an issue that you have sex with me, but the right amount where it's still legal. But yeah, you know, whether it be high-functioning autism, which is what they call it, Asperger's would be the old word, somewhere around there, you know, and it was a good explanation for me because there's no medicine for it. It's just, it helps me understand why I was the way that I was growing up, why I am the way that I am now. But not knowing as a kid kind of helped a lot because I kind of had to learn how to cope with it on my own. And I think as an adult, instead of, that could go negative for some people, but for me, it kind of was a positive.
Do you feel like there are people that could benefit from just a diagnosis alone? Or do you feel like sometimes a diagnosis could make you feel more isolated?
Yeah, I guess that's like a real personal thing for people. For me, what really helped was like I started reading and going on different blogs and stuff of posts written by adults who had autism. And I was starting to kind of see things and read things from a perspective that I thought was unique to me. And that's when it kind of really made me feel less alone. Like the way people saw things or heard noises, the way people felt in conversation, there is this, I make jokes about eye contact on stage, but that's not really the full, like, we just don't know always how to make eye contact. Sometimes we can make very deep eye contact. We don't know when to break it. You kind of like, when I'm talking with someone and looking at them, the whole time I'm thinking like, when should I look away? When should I look at them? Ways we hog conversation, making appropriate jokes, whether it be at a funeral or the wrong time of class. All these things, that kind of just always made sense just to me. I didn't really know how to put myself in other people's shoes, which is why it was hard to make friends. I was very bad at understanding life from their perspective. I only knew what I knew. I only knew who I was. I didn't understand, like, to have empathy for others, because I was like, well, if I didn't go through that, I don't get it. Like, I think the biggest story I could remember to explain it would be my grandmother, the one who ranks us. I was young, and we were all going out to dinner for her birthday, and we were walking into the restaurant, and she tripped on the curb and smashed her head open, started bleeding everywhere. Ambulance had to come. Everyone's like crying. It's very sad. And then I just look, like, she's on the ground, and I look around, and I'm like, we're still going to go eat, right? And, like, I wasn't even doing it as, like, a joke. I was just like, I don't understand why we're not still going to eat. Like, she's not dead. She's going to go in the ambulance. She's going to be fine. We should still eat dinner. And that, to me, is, like, a pure example of it, of not reading a situation at all, or the magnitude of a situation, and kind of still being like, why aren't we going to do what I want to do?
It seems like you've grown so much from that. Like, what are the steps that you took to be more self-aware and be more, like, comfortable functioning in social situations?
Conversation. I've tried to learn how to get better in, not always make myself the center of it, not always talk about me, although this is a podcast where I'm a guest, so it's not a great example of it. But, like, say we're in person with someone and I find myself wanting to talk about me, what I'll do is, when someone's talking to me, I'll try to guess what they're going to say next in my head, so that way it keeps me present with them. Like, I know it sounds like I wouldn't be present, but I'm hearing what they're saying, and then I'm also wondering, like, I wonder where they're going to go with this. Like, maybe they're going to say this, and then I hear what they say, and I'm either right or wrong, but it doesn't matter because I'm more focused on them than me, and it takes me out of the equation a bit.
What do you think I'm going to say next? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
What do you think?
I thought you were going to talk about how autistic people also have very large penises. We actually adjusted the mic stand to life size, but
what do you with the knowledge that you have now, what's some advice that you would give your younger self?
It gets better. I guess that's the easiest thing you could say to your younger self, right? Like, there's a reason you're going through all this. There's a reason you don't feel like you're fitting in, and it'll make you funnier one day. It'll make you more empathetic one day. I'm one of those big believers that I would not change anything. I kind of live life under this saying that things happen for us, not to us. My life's been an example of that. I mean, like, blowing out my arm in the first game, that's all I ever wanted. And then that happened for me. I had to go through that to realize that's not where I was meant to be. I was meant to be in comedy. I then, had some I had success pretty quickly in comedy, then lost it in a pretty public way, is like one way to put it, but in a way that people knew. And then that kind of forced me to sit with who I was. And, like, that was right around the time of the car accidents. And I was like, man, now I'm just a 350-pound dude who, if comedy doesn't work out, what do I have? So then that kind of forced me to really take the weight loss serious. Yeah, it's like, just hang in there, dude, which I did anyway. So that's weird advice to give yourself, but just, like, keep chugging along. And I would tell them to just not worry that you don't make that close of friends at a young age, because you'll have some good ones when you get a little bit older. College got a lot easier. My 1 year when I was there, I made some of the best friends that I ever had. And then comedy, sure, it's not always the best business. People aren't always the most honest, but I've made some of the closest friends that I've ever had and had some of the best memories that I've ever had in this business.
I feel like one thing that people always tell me to be happy is that I need to create happiness and balance and stability outside of my career. And I feel like, you were the youngest comic ever to get Passed to the Cellar. You got Passed to the Cellar when you were 19? 18?
20.
20.
Yeah.
And and then you were unpassed. And then you were passed again this year. And I feel that and the relationship that you've created with running has created that stability for you. And then you were able to really develop yourself as a comedian. And since you have that stability in your life outside of that, you're able to really flourish as a comic. And I really admire that. What's something that you can say about just not completely relying on your career for your happiness? Like, what did you learn in that process?
Well, it's like that old saying, right? You can't put all those eggs in one basket because, sometimes a basket has a hole in it and the egg will fall out. I mean, I might have added that end part, but it's just you can't. It's like the same way you can't rely on one person for your happiness. You can't rely on one thing for your happiness. And I'm a big comedy brings me the most happiness I think that I had in dark parts of my life, but things, you can't have the way you make money tied to your happiness because comedy ebbs and flows way too much. It goes up and down. It's like an abusive relationship in some ways, which we both have experience in. It's very important to have something that isn't about the money. It's not about the glory. It's not about amassing followers. It's not about going on the road. It's just about you and connecting more with you. Like when I go out and I run these long runs, I don't wear headphones. So I'll spend anywhere from, 6 to 10 plus hours, in the 100-mile race. It'll be 24 hours with just my thoughts. You meet people out there, you run with some people at points, but the majority of it, you're alone. And it holds up a mirror to yourself, and you really get to examine like who you are as a person, what your anxieties are. And that's a very important thing to have because when you're just focused on your work being the thing that makes you happy, you could be blinded by a lot of the success and failures when you start to judge yourself as a person by what you've done at work. And that's not who you are. It's just a small aspect of you. Who you are as a person is inside of you. And comedy doesn't always show that to you because you're the product that you're putting out. When in reality, you kind of have to get to know yourself a little bit better. And then the more you know yourself, the more you learn how to actually make yourself happy. The more I learned and discovered who I was, the more I was like, oh, this thing didn't make me happy. This thing did. Let me focus on that more. And it's just about, I love this saying, like being a journeyman of reinvention. It's just sometimes you have to reinvent yourself. Sometimes the wheel does stop spinning and you have to go do something else to spin the wheel. Like you just always keep moving, always keep doing. And you have one fucking life. Why wouldn't you want to explore so many different avenues? Why would you just want to do comedy? Why wouldn't you want to go run 100? People always like, why do you want to run 100 miles? I'm like, why wouldn't I? There's only so many years that I'm going to have the body to be able to do this. Like, why not? You learn so much about yourself and you could just, so cool to do. I've loved doing so. Like I've worn we're both 27 and I feel like the two of us have worn so many hats in different ways, different lives, your magazines, your podcast, I know that went to comedy. You acted before comedy. You have, I don't know if the podcast knows, you have a music video out there,
They do.
You've done so much and it's like that's life. It's just try on this hat, see how it fits, toss it off to the side, add it to the collection, put on a new one. And you learn more about who you are when you put yourself in different situations. If you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you just know yourself as a comic. But if you put yourself in the gym, you put yourself on the trails, you put yourself in pain in the middle of the night running through the woods, you might find a part of yourself that only was able to be found there.
You're such an inspiring person.
Thank you. That felt like a lot of ramble on my end, and I'm glad I tied it up.
No, it was amazing. Thank you. I want to pull a tarot card.
Let's do it.
So I've convinced Dan. I made him watch The Nightmare Before Christmas, which he had never seen. And I've convinced him to be Jack with me, and I'm going to be Sally. It's my first time doing a matching Halloween costume with anybody, which is very exciting.
That is exciting.
And I've always wanted to be Sally, but they never have smalls left at Spirit Halloween. I got the last small ever yesterday. It was very exciting. Will I admit that it was more gratifying because the woman next to me wanted the last small and I grabbed it first? Yeah, it was. But this is, again, the Nightmare Before Christmas deck. We're going to see if This tarot card encapsulated the energy of the episode. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your story. I'm so excited for people to hear it. You're such an inspiring person. I'm very grateful to have you in my life.
I'm very grateful to have you in mine.
I'm so cheesy. I'm sorry.
No, we should show them that we're actually deeply in love. This person has made me happier than anyone, so I hope that comes across.
I don't know. I had a weird feeling about this card. I don't know if this is positive.
Judging by the green color and the pointy things, I'm not sure.
I don't think it is. But we'll see.
I saw your face go negative first, and I was like, oh, no. This is the breakup with your boyfriend card.
I did have a bad feeling when I pulled the card.
Is the bad feeling confirmed? The suspense is killing me.
Sometimes the obvious conventional path isn't the one that will take you where you want to go. I mean, I knew it wasn't a good card because...
That's what the whole card says?
It's not good. It's not a good card, Dan.
Let me see.
No.
Let me read.
It's not the card. I felt it when I pulled it.
Wait, but not the obvious conventional path is exactly what this story has been about.
I just knew I wasn't going to pull a good card because I put too much anxiety into the deck, Dan.
You are anxious about what you're going to pull for us.
I did feel a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, your forehead vein is popping more than ever. Let me put like some juju on it.
Oh, I didn't let you shuffle the deck. I always have the guest shuffle the deck. Oh my God.
All right. So yeah, she knocks the TV off the wall.
I always have the guest shuffle the deck. I was so nervous that I didn't ask you to shuffle the deck and put your energy into it.
And now we cut it into 3 piles?
Yeah. Would you do me the honors for the love of God? Thank you. Okay. Needles again.
Oh, no. We're not getting positive colors, but it is The Nightmare Before Christmas, so almost the entire movie is done in a gray, dark tone.
Wow. This is the ultimate battle card. Are you fighting an Oogie Boogie in your life? Conflict can be uncomfortable, but sometimes it's inevitable. You'll need to be agile and clever to gain the upper hand. Good luck.
Well, you did just come from lunch with your dad.
We saw my dad for lunch, okay?
So yeah, Natalie's dad is the Oogie Boogie. What if I pull one?
Okay.
This one looks better. This one is the 3 of Presents.
That looks delightful. Honestly.
There is a child with one eye.
Listen, I don't believe in the tarot.
Oh, wait, there's another one under it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they're both presents.
You know what? We didn't shuffle the deck.
You can't just put it all to the shuffling. What is the 3 of Presents?
Okay.
We didn't shuffle the deck, though. We were pretty bad shufflers.
Whether you're making presents for Santa Claus to hand out on Christmas Eve or working on something a little more mundane, the 3 of Presents indicates it's time to work with others to accomplish your objective.
Hey, that's like us. We're working together.
So, which reminds me, by the way, guys, I have been having mental breakdowns the last 2 days. My car was towed. My registration's 2 months expired. So I have to go get my car tomorrow. And I'm going to go try to get my car. They're not going to give it to me because my registration's 2 months expired. So you know what? Maybe the 5 of Needles is a little bit of a battle we're going to face.
Maybe, but
and you know what else happened today? I got in the car and I have a giant welt on my forehead.
You got into a battle with the car door.
I got into a battle with the car door.
3 times.
3 times.
That's the 3 of Presents.
The 3 of Presents is Dan and I are going on tour the first month of November. We're doing 3 shows together. We're going to be in Buffalo, Rochester, and Erie, Pennsylvania. And I can't say Erie without thinking of Michael Scott going, Erie.
Erie. It's a lovely town, Erie. We're hitting the big cities.
We are hitting the big cities. Listen, we'll have you know, we just did a sold out show in DC on a Wednesday.
It was her fans, but I was happy to be there.
Dan crushed it so much. I was sitting in the crowd going, motherfucker.
If you guys like me, you could see me on the road with Natalie helping her sell her T-shirts after the show.
It was so funny because this guy came to the show. He wanted to give me a gift. He gave me a deck of tarot cards, hockey tarot cards. Really nice gift. Thank you so much for giving it to me. I will be using it. I should have used it on this episode, obviously. And I had it on my merch table. And some dude that was at the show came up to me and he goes, "What is that? Can I buy that?" And I was like, "No, that's not for sale." And he's like, "Okay." And he didn't want a shirt. He just wanted the hockey-related item.
Yep. He left. And he was like, "Oh, what a funny thing, though, that someone would come to your show and be like, wow, I love Natalie Cuomo, and she sells hockey cards."
I'm really curious about which thing the needles are. I guess, are they wands?
Can I read the original one that we had pulled that you were so mortified of?
Yeah.
I'm going to find a positive in it. I'm the positive man here. Now, let me ask, when you cut this episode in post, do you trim this up for the audio listeners, or they have to sit through this weird...
They can stop listening if they so choose. It's a free fucking country.
Okay, it's a free country.
You think I should chop this up?
In audio, maybe. I mean, the suspense was killing me. They're sitting there being like, oh no, the relationship is hanging by a thread of a tarot card.
Okay, I'll read it to you. The Seven of Needles often represents sneaky behavior.
Oh, no.
You may need to play your cards close to your chest. If you're trying to solve a problem, think outside the box. Sometimes the obvious conventional path isn't the one that will take you where you want to go.
So I think what that's saying is, since your registration is expired, they're not going to let you get your car out. We need to steal your car back tomorrow. We need to break into the pound tonight, hotwire the car, and break out through the gates. There's our sneaky behavior.
My issue, Dan, is this is a new deck. I haven't put a lot of energy into it. I have a deck at home that I put a lot of energy into that you see all the time.
I do see it all the time.
Dan did the sweetest thing. He bought me a shirt with the Empress on it, which was the first card I pulled.
The first card after we started dating, she pulled the Empress, and it was a good card, so I bought her a T-shirt of that.
Yeah, it was very sweet.
And also the night when we started dating of her special, I got her the little skull selfie thing. Remember, I got you a nice bag of goodies. It
was really sweet because we weren't even dating, and Dan got me my favorite snack, a card, and
some black roses.
Some black roses and two skulls taking a selfie. He was just doing that because he was being a nice
we had talked
friend.
About Jim and Pam from The Office, so I had done the little sneaky thing where I put all my feelings in a card and put it into your gift.
It was very sweet.
Yeah. Well, you're equally sweet. Now it's just cheesy, this part of the podcast.
All right. Well, Dan, where can people find you?
Sorry, guys. We're in love. At Dan LaMorte, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. DanLaMorte.com. You know, basically, if you see it online, Natalie made it. So just check her out and find me.
Thank you guys for watching. At Natalie Cuomo _ on everything. At Natalie Cuomo _ on Instagram. At Natalie Cuomo on everything else. Patreon.com/Natalie Cuomo. Thank you guys so much for watching.
See us on the road.
Bye.